Germany's domestic intelligence agency has designated the far-right Alternative for Germany party an extremist organization and a threat to democracy. The AfD finished second in February's national election with almost 21% of the vote, making it the main opposition in the incoming parliament. The official classification doesn't mean the AfD is banned, but its activities will now be subject to even closer surveillance. Now, the party says it'll challenge the decision.
Right-wing extremist with a disregard for human dignity. That's how the far-right AfD, Germany's second largest political force, is now officially classified in an 1,100-page report.
The new assessment by the Domestic Intelligence Agency shows that we are a robust democracy and have legal instruments to protect our democracy against extremist threats. This includes observation and evaluation by the Domestic Intelligence Agency, as is the case here.
The AfD's leadership called the decision, quote, complete nonsense, claiming the party has been essentially criminalised just before the change of government. It's planning a court challenge. The AfD came second in February's general election, and recent polls suggest it has even gained support since then, with several showing it as the strongest party in Germany. The Domestic Intelligence Agency said, the party's prevailing understanding of people based on ethnicity and descent is incompatible with the free democratic basic order. The report said it saw evidence of ongoing agitation by the party against refugees and migrants, citing statements by far-right AfD politicians in internal communications, speeches and social media. But what does this mean for the AfD going forward?
We should always separate these legal instruments from necessary political debate. As you know, and as I've said time and again, a party ban procedure has very high constitutional hurdles for good reasons. That should not be ruled out, but it should continue to be handled very carefully. In any case, it's not something that is automatic.
Due to Germany's history, banning parties is extremely rare, and any attempt to do so would be a highly controversial move. But this new classification will no doubt intensify the debate over whether such a ban could be justified.
Let's discuss this further with Markus Ogorek, who's Director of the Public and Administrative Law Institute at the University of Cologne and an expert on German intelligence law. Good to have you with us, Markus. Do you agree with this labelling of the AfD as an extremist organisation and one that endangers German democracy?
Well, there is at least strong evidence supporting that view. Germany's Domestic Intelligence Authority, its agency, is there to give early warnings about extremist threats in Germany. Their assessments are often based on public statements by party members. Whether this classification of the AfD as a confirmed right-wing extremist force is legally valid will eventually be decided by the courts, especially since the full report hasn't been made public. But so far, the courts have mostly confirmed the agency's earlier evaluations.
I guess for our international audiences, they would be struggling to understand how a political party, especially one that's the main opposition, could be considered a danger to German democracy. What is generally the AfD doing that makes it incompatible with German law?
Yes, in the AfD, there is a widespread support for an ethnic, ancestry-based understanding of German identity. The party makes a difference between real Germans on the one hand and so-called passport Germans on the other hand. People with German citizenship and a migration background who are deliberately portrayed as second-class citizens by the AfD. The courts in Germany have already found that this concept goes directly against human dignity. And the Domestic Intelligence Agency now sees this attitude as a characteristic of the party as a whole. And that is why the agency has classified the AfD as a confirmed right-wing extremist force.
But does this classification run the risk of disenfranchising voters and further dividing German society?
Of course, that's a valid perspective. In many countries, the authorities only step in when extremists use violence and try to overthrow the system. Germany has chosen a different path because of our historical experiences. The Nazis used democratic methods to gain power. So there has been a strong and broad societal agreement here to act earlier. But it's also true, the stronger the AfD gets, the more this consensus starts to weaken.
Okay, we'll have to leave it there, but we appreciate your thoughts, Markus Ogorek. Thank you.
Thank you very much.